to Let's Talk Health and Wellness with Lenitra. Today's guest is the John McClung, the chaplain, the I am a testimony. I have the pleasure of having him today in the studio with me. Hello, John, my bro. Thank you for
What
being here.
an honor to be here. Thank you for the invite and the opportunity to be a part of your show. I'm very proud of you,
Thank you.
especially starting something that is very well needed.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. We've been talking
Yeah.
mental health and wellness for a bit now, and because I think it's much needed. It's much needed. What do you think about that?
It's that is a fact, and it's interesting because I think when you and I talked, one of the things I was sharing with you is that I'm certified in mental health as well as spiritual mental health and youth mental health because of that, especially I would say more or less the young people now, with as much as they have to deal with, is totally different than
Yes.
when we were growing up, and so mental health is truly a challenging issue for sure.
It is. I agree. And most certainly, I think also for men, we haven't touched on that, dealing with the mental health wellness of men. It's something that isn't talked about much. And I think that it is needed.
Very true. Very
All
true.
right.
But, it's interesting. Mental health for men, a lot of times they think it's later in years, but it is more or less in their youth that they deal with that. And so, in the conversations that most men have in their household, it's very challenging because a lot of the men are not in the household. I've had an opportunity from a very young age to be a part of counseling because of my father being a pastor. So I've seen a lot of challenges for men because there was not a physical or someone from a mentoring standpoint in the home or close to the home that could give guidance to men. So there are many that are challenged from just that mere fact of not having a father figure. And a lot of times we don't know that that affects mental health. Not having a father figure or a man figure within the vicinity of you growing up, because there you have so many things and so many characteristics and attributes that you miss out on. Now that ain't always good because
Right.
sometimes the attributes and the characteristics is bad, but just the figure and the opportunity to have certain kind of conversations that you miss out on. In the times that I get a chance to counsel, that's where it happens. It happens when men are young. They don't learn how to cry.
Right.
Right.
Can't show emotion.
Right. So they have a hard time expressing, showing what it means to be affectionate and things
Right.
like that.
Yes. Yes.
So a lot of that comes from not having that figure that can show you that. It's different if you have a two-family household.
right.
Right. So I'm very blessed and fortunate enough to have not only the spiritual but the natural side of that, having both parents being in ministry. So I got a chance. I tell people I had a chance to watch the best television show ever, which was in my household.
Wow.
So that's how I look at it. I got a chance to see what it was like to have that full color picture of a couple who really loved each other and went through that process as far as raising children, teaching children. My father would come into my brother and I's room and asked us that night, "Hey, is there anything that I can help you with or talk about?" Now, it could be intimidating when your father come in the room and he wants to have a conversation with you, but just to have that opportunity to be able to talk about things that were happening in our lives or in our neighborhood or whatever it was, and as far as community, at 8, 9, 10 years old and going into our teenagehood, we didn't have to fear him because
Right.
he was open enough to come in and say, "Hey, let's talk about what you're going through." And so when you don't have that in your home,
Yeah. Well, you don't have it, and it spills over into, like you said, growing up to adulthood.
absolutely,
I think relationships,
oh, for sure,
marriage,
for
right?
sure,
So I
yeah,
agree.
yeah. Because when you don't think about this, if you do not have an image of what anything looks like, especially from a man, then you don't know how to carry that on down the road. And you can be taught per se, but it's different when you grow up with it, and you grow up with it in a way that is truly applicable to your life. And so when you just spoke about, relationships, dealing with specific situations, if you've never seen a full whole relationship, what do you know about it?
Right.
Especially as a young person, and coming up. So uh, there's a statement that things in your life, they last or they go 2 and 3 generations, right? So if you have a situation where you've never seen what a relationship looks like, the next generation is going to see the same thing because you didn't do it, right? And it can go from your children, grandchildren, great grands. So that's what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with people that have never seen wholesome relationships. So how can you possibly
Right.
create one? Yeah, it's something that you have to learn to do.
Right. Wow. Interesting. Interesting because I'm just sitting here listening to you and it does. It all starts from there. And like you said, trickles on to there and it needs to be dealt with. I mean, like, but how can we do that? Like, how do you think? Because I'm just, it has to start somewhere.
Oh
It
yeah.
has to start somewhere. But what can we do to?
See that that's the challenging question because think about this. In relationships, a woman is nurturing, right?
Right.
And she wants to fix certain things. But a man, in his own way, is challenged by having things fixed.
Right.
So you have to be receptive in a way of being able to do some things that you would not normally do. So we got to move ego, we got to move pride out the way, and we got to learn some things and be honest about them that we didn't know them, so that we can actually be taught. Because you're going to have to find some type of mentor who has done way more than you've done,
Right.
especially in relationships. So if you're single and you are trying to develop a relationship, you need to find a man who has been established in a relationship for a period of time and talk about that. How can I last 20 years, 30 years? My parents were married 41 years before my father passed, right? My mom did not remarry for 20 years. So to me, they were married 60 years,
Wow.
60
Yes.
some years, right? So what does that look like? What does that look like from a standpoint of both sides? I didn't have any sisters. So I learned how to treat women the way I do. And
Yeah.
how I treat my sisters.
Right.
I learned that from my father, right? How he treated my mother. And I had 2 other brothers, so it's 3 of us, and all of us learned that from how he treated. Now, if he would have treated her bad, we would have learned that. And it would have been an impact on the relationships that we have down the road. Now, were we perfect? No, but still, we had a template. And so men have to decide whether or not they want to find a template in their life that makes sense for them, that will actually be applicable to the things that they're trying to do. And that's in any type of leadership role.
Right.
The Lord leads us in many ways, but yet we don't pay attention to it in some cases, right? And that let us know how hard-headed we are. So
Right.
there's some things that we have to release and let go of so that we can learn. And will it be a perfect situation? No, but it's a situation where you must put forth an effort. You got to do some work.
Yeah.
And brothers, man, we got to do some work.
Yeah.
So that's I don't think that we should put people in or especially men, because that's what we're speaking to, in a position where we're trying to fix them, because we are going to buck up against it in some way. But I think if we create ways personally to develop certain type of relationships with them, with each other,
Right.
men need to be hanging with men that are actually doing the right things and can give you guidance. It's difficult for us to learn what a man is like from a woman, although she can show him some things from the woman's perspective, but it's nothing like hearing a man's voice talk
I
about
was
it.
going to ask you that because, I see that a lot. Some that actually grew up, their mom raised them, and they did an amazing job
Absolutely.
raising them. But to not have that male figure
Yeah.
around,
Oh yeah.
it looking now, I look back and I'm like, wow, I see exactly what you're talking about, because it's only so much, as a woman that we can teach, our sons out there, but
Yeah.
they need that mentorship. They need that man to show them some things that we can't obviously show them, right?
True enough. And I'm gonna say they need the right men.
The right.
right? Because there's some guys that they can actually migrate toward, and it'd be a whole different story, right?
Right.
So and hats off to women who have anchored the family with both male and female children in the house, especially the males. But I will say that there are certain conversations
Yeah.
that a mother cannot have. And now she might try and have it,
Oh yeah.
but it won't have the depth because she hasn't gone through what a male or man has gone through in that role. And even the fathers who are or the men who are considered bad have gone through something that they can talk about. And that's
Right.
something that can be a conversation that helps their son avoid that. See, a mother can't talk about what a man has gone through to help him avoid it. She could talk about what he did to her and, then, and try to
Right.
avoid that, right?
Right.
But there's just some in depth language I think men have that men know. They know when they hear a specific word or a specific sound or have a specific conversation that will make an impact on their life, and that's what that conversation should be like. And you got to be men have to be very careful who they're getting their guidance from.
Yes, I agree. Because I'm just thinking, I have a son. I
Yeah,
have a son,
yeah,
and so, you know, my son and I, same thing. We would do everything together.
yeah.
Now he's a little older. He's a little different now. Okay, and I will be told, look, he's a boy. Y'all would hear like he's a boy.
Yeah.
Me, mommy and son date. We go have dinner. All these things, and it's like, okay, but he still need,
Oh, absolutely.
have his dad, because his dad, was military, so he was gone a lot. So now that he's older, he has his dad is there, but, and, my son is 18, he'll be 19 soon.
Oh,
He's
he's
like
like prime age.
yes, he's like 6'2",
Yeah.
played
Yeah.
football, big old boy.
Yeah.
He looks down on me. That's how tall he is,
Mm.
And but me, I'm like, I'm still calling him Mook. That's my nickname for him is Mook. It was,
Mom's
and
never
he's
let go. Mom's
right. And I get to the school and he's like, I'm like, hey son, hey mom. I'm like, hey Mook. He was like, Mosh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shh. I'm like, what? You still my Mook, And he's
yeah.
like, Mom. But I see what you're saying because he has changed. Of course,
Oh, absolutely.
that voice has changed. And a lot of things that, I instilled in him, it's still there, but those manly things that, and to me, I used to look at it, he's a boy, don't be so harsh or
Yep.
so rough, on him, telling his dad that, he's like, he's a boy. He's a boy, He needs to know these things, try
That's
to
right.
prepare him for the world. So now I see because it all makes sense because it starts out, like you said,
Oh,
from,
absolutely.
you know,
Well, Proverbs speak to that. Train up a child in the way they should go, and when they
Right.
get old, they will not depart from it. But the
Right.
question is, what are you training them in?
right.
So if you are not getting discipline, if you don't understand what it means to be diligent, if you don't learn how to communicate, if you
Right.
don't learn how to love and all the other attributes, be patient, then you haven't been trained.
Right.
So how are you going to know those things when you get older? You're going to try to figure them out now. And so a lot of individuals have not figured it out.
No,
And
they
it's-
haven't.
And that's part of mental. Now, your thinking capacity is limited based on the information that you were getting in your youth. Your youth is a very important time. And you know this in the medical field, between the ages of, I think it's 5 now, but it used to be 7. But between birth and 5 or birth and 7 is where the most impact is made. Now, whatever that impact
Right.
is what makes a difference going on down the road. Because in most cases, especially mentally, you do not forget what happened in your youth.
No.
Somehow or another, something will trigger, or you will remember, whether good or bad,
Right.
what has happened to you. So, what parents put in their children at a young age is what affects them mentally down the road,
Right.
especially boys.
Oh, yeah.
Especially boys. And so, that's what we're looking at now, because you can see it in the street when people don't have good frame of mind. They don't know where they're going. They just all over the place because they didn't have no stability in their youth.
Right. And, I had a friend tell me, some things that he watched happen, to his mother growing up. And the weirdest thing is that he tried so hard not to be like his father.
Yeah.
You know, started out good,
Mm-hmm.
but what ended up happening was that very one person that he tried so hard not to be alike, to be like, he ended up
Being
doing
just
the
like-
exact same
yeah.
thing in turn, even with his family.
Yeah.
You know, his marriage, everything just kind of, because he still had those things
Yeah.
that I guess he witnessed as he was growing up with his father, and didn't know how to
Yeah.
channel those
Oh,
emotions,
absolutely.
and it ruined,
Yeah.
his family.
I think see, people have to look at two things. There's a natural DNA, and then there's a mental DNA, right? So mentally, what you watch will be embedded in your memory, whether good or bad, from a standpoint of what you've seen. So think about if you see, and again, medically we know this. If you see your father as an alcoholic, and you watch the characteristics of him, somehow or another in your mental DNA, you'll see what an alcoholic is like, and you'll find yourself eventually, if you can't fight it, being an alcoholic,
Right.
And so all the other attributes, whether it's physically abusing the mom, whether he's cussing the kids out, all of those are built into that mental in the early ages of what that looks like. And so when you start taking on the DNA or the trait of that mentally, you start making an impact on an adult the same way with the relationship you go into. You become abusive. You may not become a full alcoholic, but you got the traits of the things that happens, right? So again, the decision of a parent in the early stages of a child's life is the decision that will affect them in their adulthood.
Yeah.
There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. How they impact them in their youth is the same way the impact will be when they become an adult.
Wow. You're absolutely right. I see it. I see it. Again, wow. And it just makes so much sense because you think about, again, the relationships. I mean, you see it, and then you wonder why.
Women be struggling because of that.
Right. And I think what makes it even harder to deal with when you both, you have that woman that may be dealing
right.
with whatever
Because it works
she
both
went,
ways.
because it goes both
Yes,
ways.
it does.
I know we're talking here today about the men, but
Yeah.
it goes both ways. So when you have those both of those things, and then they clash,
Yeah. Oh.
because
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big
happens a
boom.
lot
It's
now.
a big
Yeah,
boom,
it happens
right?
a lot now.
And then
Yeah.
nobody wants to talk,
Yeah.
right? Nobody wants to talk about it. And then like men, is I'm quite sure you see it's harder,
Man,
right?
we
to
go
get
into a
it
quiet
out,
mode, yeah.
right, go to a quiet mode.
Yeah.
You
You're like,
know,
don't talk to me.
Right.
But think about this, though. The same impact that a man has on his son when he's not there in a relationship is the same impact that happens to the daughter when she doesn't see what a man looks like in her youth, right?
Right.
The father's not there, so she doesn't have anybody that can nurture her from a standpoint of a man. She doesn't have anybody that takes her out, shows her what it means. So it's, and we're going to talk about the positive characteristics, right?
right.
So there's some things missing that she will be seeking
Yeah.
in the person, and then those traits are not theirs, and she does what is she doesn't know what to do. Because the guy doesn't, he had him in the same situation because of his
Right.
household, right?
Right.
So he coming with the empty hand too in some cases. So now they trying to work it out and they don't know how to work it out because they've never seen it,
Right.
right? And there's a quote unquote word called daddy issues, right? But that's a true statement in some cases, not all, maybe. And that's because I didn't have my father at home.
Yeah,
Right.
because your expectations are completely different. I was a daddy's girl.
Yeah.
So
See? Yes.
I was very close to my
Exactly.
father. And so, my dad, always told me growing up, I was beautiful. We had conversations. So for me, my expectations in a man, is almost
Kinda-
like it's
it's a
kind
high
of
standard, right?
because my dad,
Yeah.
and my dad also, he was a good man. My dad, he worked, he was a hard worker.
Yeah.
My dad, he kept a house clean. He clean. My dad could bake. My dad could cook.
Think about
Everybody
that.
know my dad can throw down. Okay, so for me to have someone that completely the opposite,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, and it's, and the thing is, my children's their dad, which I ended up, marrying someone like my father, because I mean, he was good. He did all those things. He cooked, he cleaned, same thing, you know. And so to come out of that, and you having to start over, whatever the case may be,
Yeah, yeah.
it's almost like, whew, man, okay. Did you wash your hands before you go in the refrigerator? Can you wash your hands? Make sure,
The
certain things you feel like you
the
shouldn't
real woman
have
come
to
out in
say.
you,
Oh,
right?
the real woman, right? Certain things you kind of feel
Yeah,
like you shouldn't have to say or
yeah,
ask,
yeah.
because in your mind you're so used to, like, well, my dad, I didn't have to tell my dad just knew to do these things.
Exactly.
But you have to kind of step back as a woman and say, okay, look, not everybody, and it's a process, because still working,
Yeah.
even on me, it's a process, but we do, as women, have to take a look and say, okay, not, because nobody's perfect.
Right.
Nobody's
Right. That's
perfect.
true.
We all
That's true.
have something. We all have our shortcomings,
Right.
right?
Oh, absolutely.
But it's about how much work are you willing to put in if you really want it.
And it is work. And think about what you just said. Who set the standard for you?
My daddy.
Your father set the standard for you. So imagine if you have no standard,
Right.
right?
Wow.
On both sides. You can even, to the point, you've already said you're a daddy's girl, and this started young. So the same conversation, your conversation in the last minute was flawless, because you could tell and talk about everything he was capable of doing when you were young.
Yes.
So think about the opposite of that.
Right.
Everything that a person cannot talk about in reference to their father. And you're missing that, especially from a woman, a young girl who's missing all those things. She had no standard set by
Right.
a man in her home. And a young man has no standards set by a father that knows how to treat the girl that had a standard. So we're talking mental, because if you have never seen that standard mentally, you don't know what it looks like, so you don't even know how to deal with it, right? And
Right.
on the other side, you've never been taught that, so you don't know how to treat it. So you are looking again at the decision making in mentally, because if a man leaves a home, he mentally checked out,
Yes.
right? So he has a mental reason or a thought process that says,
Right.
I don't want to be here. I don't want to take care of this responsibility or whatever it might be, or I don't want to deal with her. So there's still a thought process in there, because there's something that has triggered the position of his life, excuse me, that doesn't give him the opportunity to work through it. Because if you really learned how to work through relationships in your youth based on the things you were taught, you would be able to get some kind of idea of, okay, how do I work with this? I saw this at home. My dad was dealing with this, whether
Right.
losing a job, so I know what it's like to lose a job, so there's conversations there are conversations I had at the table when I was 6 and 7 that I can still remember with my parents from a standpoint of learning, and especially from the spiritual side. I can remember some messages, or when my father would say, "What did you learn 2 things out of my message today?" We couldn't even get up from the table. So
Wow.
that means we had to have active listening in church. So there were some things that I do now, because I thought, now sincere, I thought I was going to be nowhere near ministry, right? So, but I am now. The very thing that I wanted to get away from was the very thing that I know in my depth now, and know how to use it. So the things that a police officer could teach his young son how not to do crime,
Right.
right? But yet, that child could still go out and do crime. But he can't make the father an excuse, because he showed him how to do it, how not to be in crime in his youth. So now it's on him. So a lot of us, we have to take responsibility to some of the things we learn, right?
Right.
So and you got to remove some excuses, and as men, we have to remove some excuses, because if
The
we had,
blame game.
if we've had opportunity to learn those things,
Right.
and then those who didn't, you can't make excuses, because you have the ability to learn those things.
Right.
So you are from a mental and speaking from a man's side of it. Again, I'm fortunate because I had the best of both worlds, so I've gotten a chance to see what counseling looks like in my youth when men were dealing with that. I can remember the days sitting in a room, my brother and I, because we were a year apart, with my father counseling people off the street, pimps, prostitutes, drug
Wow.
addicts, alcoholics, coming into his little shop and having conversations of what they struggled with. And
Wow.
the majority struggle with the broken family,
Mm.
right?
Interesting.
So if you think about what was missing in my youth as a young person that is affecting me now, something that's it could be you could be abused in your youth and it's going to affect you right down the road because there are
Right.
people who are struggling because they've never been able to let it go, especially guys. Young boys who are or men who were abused in their youth, oh, they struggle tough mentally. It challenges them differently because something was taken from them that wasn't supposed to be taken. So when you look at people who are struggling, especially men, because we're talking about men, when they're struggling with something specific in their life, something in their youth damaged that area, and it has affected them over time.
Wow. Wow. So I mean, but what can we do to change that? Like how can we? I mean, I know you said from the men they have to come, but I know it's only so much as the women for our sons. But how can that be changed? Because I know it starts out again, like we said, when they're younger, and not everybody have a two-parent home,
True.
and then some don't even have a one-parent home. I
Yeah,
see,
yeah,
some that are being raised by their
that's
grandparents.
true.
And then now grandparents are not even grandparents,
Ooh,
like
man.
I mean, hey, I'm a grandma,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
so when you have, because grandma, the older
Old school,
grandmas, and
yeah,
right,
nanas and all
that
that,
was
yeah,
teaching and doing all those things. Not
yeah.
saying that it's not happening now, but compared to how it was then
Yeah,
with grandparents.
yeah,
So when you don't have that, and you have a lot of children that are young boys that are actually home alone,
yeah,
or
absolutely.
the streets are raising them.
They are.
The streets are, because that's all they know.
Yeah,
Some may not have a brother, or their older brother is out there, and then they take, and the streets become their family. Those males on the street become the ones that are mentoring
yeah,
these young boys. Like, what do we do? Like, because you don't see, I mean, it's nowhere for them really to go, because
right.
mom got to
Yeah,
work,
that's true.
right? If
That's
the
true.
mom is there, she has to work.
Yeah.
So,
So think about that. We earlier spoke about what decision you make that will affect your life 2 and 3 generations down the road, right?
right.
So and you know me, I speak from the spiritual side, especially being a chaplain and growing up in ministry. The thing, let's think about one thing. Let's from a woman's side, we don't really have any more Miriams along with that mentor Ruths,
Right.
right? Older women. It's a few and far between, but there's a totally different generational gap now. Mentoring each other is very difficult.
Right.
So, giving that challenge as far as giving direction in reference to your life as a young woman first, maybe in your teenagehood. You are here, when you got young women who are teaching themselves how to survive, or teaching themselves from a standpoint of working in relationships, trying to have a boyfriend as a teenager. There's a lot of things missing,
Right.
which will affect your decision making. Same thing with men. We don't have any more Moses and well, we do in some ways. Moses and Joshua. Being able to be mentored for a period of time that will allow you to have some decision makings or ways of coming out of things or through things for that fact in a positive way. So, to answer your question from a point of what can we do? One, many of us, we need to have a spiritual side to our life. We need to have some balance, some spirit. You need to have some spiritual guidance in your life. Somebody who spiritually can speak to you and give you guidance where you are in life to where you want to go. As far as the right steps, in all thy ways, acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths with an S, which means there are several directions you can go in, but you need to have guidance in those directions, right? I'm pretty sure in where we are in our age, direction gave us an opportunity to go into the areas of life that we're in now, right? Where we
Right.
feel pretty good about what we're doing. But if you don't have that, then where do you go? You're in the wilderness. You know, Moses was trying to guide the people, but they were hard headed, so they were in the wilderness a while because they didn't want direction. And so when we look at men who have no idea of what's going on in their life, they need direction. They need to have someone in their life that can help them through specific situations, give them some mentoring, some training, some coaching on life. And as men, we need to be open enough to say, I need help,
Right.
which is that's the I need, which is three words that's very tough to say,
Right.
right? But when you can say it and you say it to the right individual or individuals, then life can change for you uh, by getting the right, the right insight, the right wisdom, the right knowledge. But it will never start until a person is willing to say, I need help.
I need help.
And that's when you think about it. If you are dealing with individuals with mental challenges, most of them is because they never asked for help. They tried to handle it on their own, and it got too far down the road, and now they jacked up.
Yeah. And then now they have a child, and it just
Think about, see, there you
the
go.
cycle continues.
There you
And
go.
it continues.
Because if you
Right.
are in need of help, and you think that having a child is they're going to love it to the capacity that you're not. You don't have the mental capacity to give that child the type of love that you're missing. That's not going to happen because you don't even know what you're missing.
Right.
So it's to me based on the years that I've had an opportunity to sit across the table or be in a room from a standpoint of counseling both men and women. Most of it is because it has gone too far. Like they let things go. Think about, young women who have been in need of love from a father, let things go too far. They got 6 kids looking for love from all the wrong places. And then the guys got multiple kids because they think that's something of a conquer, and it's not.
Right.
It's because there's responsibility that comes with it because they were never taught responsibility. So on both sides, I think because I think we're in a season now where help is difficult. So that's why it's so important to surround yourself with people who can give you spiritual guidance as well as natural guidance from a standpoint of being able to do the right things in your life, because the moment you make the wrong decision, that road is a long road and it's hard to come back off of. But it's not impossible, but you really got to want to do it.
Yeah, you have to want. Definitely, I agree. Wants to do it, and going back, like you said, with that mental, you hear all the time, because it went too far. They didn't know how to deal with it.
Right.
Perhaps had nobody to talk to
Exactly.
help them deal with
Exactly.
it, and then they end up resulting in suicide
Yep.
or injuring or taking someone else's life.
Absolutely.
Because they didn't know how to deal with it, right?
Yeah, I think there's a one sentence line that really a lot of individuals who are in a mental situation deal with. I have no way out.
Right.
Most of the time, because they don't have a community around them, right? They don't believe there's a way out. Most suicides, especially from a mental health, is because they don't believe they have a way out.
Right.
And if you've never been surrounded by people who have gone through some things and found a way out, then you will always be in the mindset that there are no answers for me, right? And I think for those, and again, from the men's standpoint, we have to deal with so much,
Yeah.
right? Especially men of color. We deal with a lot that women will never know about, right? The responsibilities of things, who we are, us being intimidated just because our color, we're people not thinking that we're smarter than they are when we really are geniuses, and because the moment we walk in a room, we can't look good dressed up. If we go in the room, it's intimidating because
Right.
we're a black man that's smart and educated. What does that mean? It means we're black, smart, and educated. That's all,
Right.
and that we know we've earned it, right? So if you are behind the 8 ball before you even walk into the room, especially as a man of color, some men can't handle that because they put in the work to get to that point. So now now it's detrimental or it's degrading. And if you're not familiar with being degraded, that can be very tough. And so, and not only that, the other half to that is, what if you come home and you get the same thing?
Yeah, right. Yeah, the nagging. You
Yeah,
know,
like
I
you
hear
ain't
the
this,
yeah.
yeah.
Nobody want to hear the nagging. You know, they go to work all day. You have to deal with, like you said,
Oh
the
yeah,
things as a man that you have to already deal with. And
absolutely,
so to come home to what's supposed to be your safe place,
absolutely.
your place where you should be able to come home and relax.
Yeah, peace.
Sometimes have
That's
peace.
that's some peace.
Sometimes, as women,
Give
we
us
don't give
peace.
them that. They come home and, we're nagging, some nagging, fussing, complaining
Yeah,
about everything,
yeah.
what you didn't do, what you need to do. And
So
it
now you
just
got the weight
add,
of the world
right.
and the weight of your relationship and the weight of your family as a man. I mean, because think about you. I think you made a very valid statement. What if a woman has had the image of high standard in her life, and yet the the man has some of those standards, right?
Right.
That he could take care of home, cook, clean, all of it, and yet it's not good enough. That's tough.
Right.
And that affects your psyche from a man like, dang, I can't do nothing right.
Right.
Or I'm not good enough in some ways. And
Right.
there are men who are dealing with the fact that they cannot stand up to a standard and they're actually doing it. And yet the voice that they hear in their ear is a voice that the standards are so high out of the fact that they've never now the woman has never seen this other part of the standards that she making up, and he's like right here, and yet he got to go way up here and he don't even know where he's going.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think we in this day and time, sincere, you have to look at the fact that now in society women have been given another power. They can take care of themselves. They're running businesses. I don't need a man, and all these
Right.
other things, right? And yet, even women of power have this thing in the back of their mind. I don't like doing this by myself. That,
I'm tired.
you know what
I
I'm
hear
saying?
it. I hear it.
I need some
Yeah.
help, or even
Yeah.
because you're not built to be alone. First of all, so anyway,
Right.
so now you have this situation where you might meet someone that meets some of those things, right? And this dude is putting forth an effort. Yet your power level talks down to what he's trying to do. Now, because there's most cases nowadays, you're not coming in at the same level. They be talking about I want to give 50 and 50. No, you give 100 each, but you give of what you have as 100, right?
Right.
And sometimes it's difficult for a man to handle coming or being in a home where the woman makes more, breadwinner,
Yeah.
right? Which is really not a really solid statement. It's a house winner, and vice versa. Sometimes the brother is in power, and he'd be like, "This is my," So the woman's like, she's like, oh, going into submission. So
Right.
so now you're walking on eggshells. So it's a difficult environment either way, because mentally, when as men, when we have all our stuff together, it's a power trip because we don't have to take it,
Right.
right? We really do want to have a great relationship, but we don't have to take it. So now that, and he turned into a totally different person. And the same thing on the other side. I'm not gonna take that when she's got that leverage. So um, that's another that's another conversation altogether from a
Right.
relationship standpoint. But both are challenged with the mental aspect of where they are in their position. Because if you could think about it, if you could bypass the fact mentally, because this is a thinking thing. If you could bypass it in a relationship, no matter who is the breadwinner, no, whoever
Right.
makes the most, if you could bypass that, because well, let's say this: if you don't bypass it, you have a house.
Right.
If you do bypass it, you got a home. Because there's a big difference of coming together, working with what you have, coming either or, and working in that home together to make it that as far as a comfort level. And if you don't, then now you both are challenged from a standpoint of who's what, because now it comes to titles,
Right.
and titles are mental. because you be like, because the moment you start bringing on a title in a relationship, like I'm this, oh man, mentally the other person's impacted, right?
Wow.
This guy ain't gonna, if a woman, she got her stuff together, he's still not gonna take it. If you
Right.
talking down to him or calling him, this, you ain't nothing because you did, because I don't. It's
Right.
not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
And the
now
name
mentally,
calling.
you're
Right.
still in a fight.
Yeah. And the words, is something that once you put it out there, whew,
You
you got to be
cannot.
careful with the
Yes.
words. I'm even it's women. What we say, vice versa, because once you put them out there,
Yeah.
I know from as being a woman, you hold things. You say it's okay. It is, but really, we still holding in, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
quite sure it's the same thing, right? For
Yeah,
men,
absolutely.
the name calling. So it's really is a bad thing. It's not good to, if you feel you get to that point, I think you should just step away.
Yeah.
Everybody go and cool off, because when you doing the name calling, I'm quite sure like it sticks. Because
Oh,
now,
it
like you said, it from a
sticks.
man, right?
Yeah.
You
Oh, it
know,
sticks. But think about this. That statement, walk away,
walk
step
away.
back, right? What if you don't know how?
Right.
Because you've never seen it. And
Right.
you go into the other way. You're going in because in your youth you saw cussing and fussing, right?
Right.
Trying to figure out something. So the first thing that triggers is that, oh, I'm familiar with this. Boom, going right into cussing and fussing as an adult with the relationship you're in.
Right.
And there are individuals who are walking on eggshells in their home because they haven't been given the opening to be themselves in their relationship and have those conversations, those difficult conversations. And guys, and if we got a TV, we good
Right.
because we want to go in the room and just shut it down, and yet because of the emotion, it's not going to get shut down. And because again, we have not been in a room that diffuses that.
Right.
Because you got to know, as a man, you got to know conflict resolution, and you got to know it well. That is no joke,
Right.
and that's not just with the woman you're with. I mean, just in your
In
household, you
general,
got to know
right.
conflict resolution in your life and all that. So, if you've never been trained on how to handle conflict, oh my goodness, you're gonna have some difficult situations in your
Yeah.
home, or wherever you are, for that fact. And if you're not receptive to saying, you know what, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of guys have never seen a man apologize.
All right. Yeah. They don't want to say I'm
Right?
sorry. And and as women, sometimes that's all we want to hear.
That's all.
Just hear that you mean it, and you're sorry.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
you said, it makes sense, because this is what we want to hear.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you never got that, how can you say those words? I'm
Absolutely.
sorry. How can you even show emotion? Because it's for some men to do that. It's considered
Oh, it's
what, a sign
very
of weakness,
yeah, absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
When it's okay to
Yeah.
show it, but if you never
Yeah,
got that,
the first man or the first person I ever saw in a male figure cry was my father in the pulpit. He was crying because of the love he had for people, right? So when I saw that, and I think I might have been nine or 10 when I saw that for the first time. Now I've heard him, but I saw this. Changed my life because now I know I can cry, right? Most men have never seen their father cry in life. Why? Because the father never saw his father cry in life. He was tough, we were taught, So the very thing that I got a chance to see in my youth, I'm comfortable with crying in a moment. I don't have a problem with it because I know what it means. You're releasing some things, or your emotion says I'm connected, right?
right?
So if you are bottling up, oh my goodness, if you are bottling up the things that happen in your youth, in your teenagehood, in your young adulthood, going into adulthood, if you've been bottling up that for years because you didn't know that you could actually release it, imagine what it's like when you do. And in most cases, mentally, he does it in a relationship where he's comfortable enough to think that he could do it now, and it's the wrong situation because something
Wow.
was triggered in the conversation that brought it on, and you've been hanging on to this, and this one person hit that button, and you thought, now a woman was thinking, well, maybe he'll cry. Oh no, he coming verbally. He gonna verbally ease up out or cause an issue or get that issue out
Wow.
versus that. And so men, Wherever whoever get a chance to listen, man, start learning to cry early in life, or at least release that emotion. Now, the second part to that, women don't call a man out his name because he's showing emotion.
Right,
You know,
right,
don't
right.
if he say I'm sorry, don't say yeah you were sorry so and so. No,
Yeah,
allow him to be able to be in an environment
right.
that's healthy from a standpoint of love and compassion and empathy and vulnerability. Men are challenged with being vulnerable. That is a mental challenge because they don't know that the environment they're in can be trusted with their emotion.
That's deep.
Oh, it
That's deep.
is.
That's
and,
deep.
and women think, oh yeah, he could be no, because you ain't ready for it.
Wow.
So if you don't create that environment with the relationship you're in and with a man, you're gonna miss out on a lot because he's not gonna express it.
Right. And once I think same thing for us. Once we close, or shut down,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
What I've given you at first, you may not see that again.
Right.
Right? Is that what that
They
is?
get ugly.
It get ugly. It gets very
It get
ugly.
ugly.
Yeah.
And I don't know how y'all do it, ladies, but you have a sharper tongue. You say things. I don't know if the Lord gave that to you for some reason, but there are some things you can say that would just jack a man up. You just
Wow.
break him down from a point of his emotion, and he don't even know how to respond because he's never heard it. Think about it. If my mom has never called me a low down so and so, and then you do it, that's kind of tough. If my mom think about it. If my mom has been giving me, showing love, son, you're amazing, going through all that, and then this lady that I'm with tells me opposite, and I've been believing this all this time. Mentally, I've built myself up based on the conversation I've been having with my mom that was positive, and then another woman comes in my life and tears all that down. You got a problem on your hand because a brother
Wow.
will not recover in most cases from that because his self-esteem and his self-image has just been totally damaged. Because those are the two
Wow.
areas mentally that both men and women, but men, because I can speak to it, we are challenged in self-esteem and self-image because we get it hit every day. Our self-image gets hits every day. We have to be a certain way, right? And then our self-esteem, when we can try to bring ourselves up, somebody tears it down.
Wow.
So those are areas that we have to really look at, and as women, you got to watch how you attack it, because you will be in a pretty challenging situation if you continue to break that down.
Wow. You hear that, ladies? You hear that, ladies? We
Absolutely.
have to do better.
Yeah.
Definitely. I believe we have to do better. If you want to have that relationship that you desire,
Oh yeah.
with that man, you have to do better. Gotta watch that mouth, right? The
In more
name
ways than one.
calling,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
name
Yeah.
calling, and the tearing them down. You know, you see right here. I mean, he's telling you it really it messes them up, and we don't
Yeah.
even realize it
Yeah.
until because we do it so much. You just having that conversation and you say things. Sometimes you don't mean it. That's why it's good sometimes to
Mm-hmm.
just kind of simmer
Woosah.
down,
Yeah.
woosah, so that we
Yeah.
don't say things that we can't take back, because it really affects them as well.
Yeah.
When you the name calling and you saying all these things. So, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think. I think um, the power that women have, and in a couple of the books that I write, I talk about the difference between the woman's influence versus a man persuasiveness. Right? Women are very influential. Men are persuasive in most ways. We persuade things because we are able to talk certain things, or get our way into a situation, or especially think about some of the women you see and you wonder how did they get together. Because brother he can be smooth in his words. He can be very persuasive, right? But a woman's still influential. She can make a brother do just about anything. And so she has to understand the power and influence she has, because she can build a brother to the mountaintop, and in that same voice she can tear him down to
Tear
the
'em
valley,
down.
right? So recognize what your voice really means in the influence. There are many women who have lost their lives based on what they've said. and what they said attacked the mentality of the person they said it to. And that very thing that they spoke, as far as the mentality, was to a point where he got tired of what was happening. And that's why she's not here. And that's why he in jail. Because you're speaking to the mentality of a man. So you have to be careful. And as we were saying, what is it that you're speaking into that mind? Because your voice it penetrates. The voice, when a voice is speaking a particular thing, your spirit feels it and hears it. So now you've said something that he has never wanted to have said to him. And now, what is the response? The response is what I said earlier. Everything that was bottled up, holding that particular thing down, just got released. And that's why you have what they call intimate relationship abuse now. It's called IVR, intimate personal relationship versus domestic violence. Right? It's an intimate violence relationship now in the mental health capacity. It's IVR versus DVR, because every relationship that's abusive is intimate. You know the person, right? In some capacity. And so be careful what you speak into the mind and who you're speaking and what mind you're speaking to.
Right.
Because if you haven't had conversations about a person's history, what happened in their youth, which is about relationships, right? You should be having these conversations. What did you go through in your youth? Was there any abusive situations, or how was your parents in your youth? Did you have both parents? And all of those conversations that you should have, you should have with a man.
Right.
And don't be going looking for a man, because you don't know what the man to look for.
Right. Looking all social media.
You know what I'm saying?
They in all types of
you don't know
groups of looking.
who
You
you
don't,
getting.
right. You
right?
don't know who you're getting and what you're getting.
And if you do, you better have some of the qualities that can handle
Right,
them. Right.
right.
So it's a lot involved mentality wise that, again, men go through, men deal with, and that they don't know because they were not trained or taught at a young age. And again, if those things are not in place, you have no idea who you're dealing with. And you might go seeking for somebody that's been waiting to take advantage of you in many capacities, because that's what he saw, that's what he was training. But then again, be found. Don't go seek.
Right. Oh yeah, I hear it all the time. I have some of my, my sisters. They'll say, I'm still looking. I'm trying to find my king, and then she said, no, my king gonna find me.
Yeah.
I hear that. So, you're
Think
right.
about it. Biblically, there's never been a king that went to look for a woman. Everybody was either gifted or sent.
Right.
So why, if you'd never happened biblically, would you try to do it naturally? Go seek somebody. And they be talking about Boaz and all that kind of stuff. Boaz didn't look for her. Miriam sent Ruth there to be in the right position to be found.
Okay.
Right? So what capacity or what characteristic do you have that says, I can find a man? You're not built for that.
Right.
Right? And the moment you do, you will lose all the qualities that you're looking for, because it's not in you to look for it. It's never been that. So, ladies, you heard it from the chaplain. Stop looking.
Stop looking.
Prepare yourself to be found.
All right.
Yeah.
Prepare. Yeah. Wow, that's deep. That's deep. We definitely have to do better. We have to do better. And in order to do better, we have to know better.
That's the key. Yeah,
and
knowing
now
the
we know.
information.
And it helps when you have, those male friends, those that are like brothers that share information,
Absolutely.
that help you, so that it'll help you with your relationships. It'll help you when, you're out there, so you know what you're looking for, and you know those signs. And even just for yourself, like I said, talking to males all the time, I get all the stories, I hear, after work, I'm not going home because,
statement.
I just want to be able to decompress before I go in that house. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that they feel that after work they dread coming home.
Absolutely.
Or they have to make a stop to decompress, whether that's going to have a drink, what have you.
Think about that.
Just because they don't want to go at home where they feel like they can't be comfortable and relaxed in their environment.
Isn't that something? Think about that statement. You are in an environment that makes you drink. Your home has caused you to create a habit of stopping before you get there to have something that you don't need.
Right.
So you are in a double toxic environment. You're in an environment toxic that you went to have the drink, and you're in a toxic environment where you decompose after you have the drink. So you're walking on eggshells when you go in after you've drank to go in to walk on eggshells. So you're walking on eggshells unbalanced with a totally different mental capacity because some 2 or 3 drinks, you're not really yourself, even after one, depending on the drink you have, right?
Right.
So you're not thinking. So mental wise, you're going into your environment with a totally different thinking capacity. And then you're going to have an argument on alcohol.
Right.
That's,
Right.
that's not a good
Yeah.
combination.
Because now with everything that you was thinking, right?
Can come out with no problem.
Right. Because now,
What did he say? Blame it on alcohol? Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So now your
right.
conversation is not a capacitive conversation. It's
Right.
incapacitative. And so you can say, "Oh man, I was drinking," and I said, "It can't." No, what comes out of your heart? What come out of your mouth was in your heart because you was thinking
Right.
like, while you was sitting at the bar, you was thinking of some stuff.
Man, she get on my nerves.
Right? Right? Yeah.
I hope she made dinner. She been
Yeah.
home all she home all day.
And she at home by herself. She thinking of some stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
somehow or another, if he made the stop, then that means the environment is not conducive for the way they thinking.
right.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, we've been getting it in. Thank you. Thank you so much for, just sharing,
Yeah.
all that. I mean, because it really makes us think. Things that we need to do as women,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Things that the men obviously, need to
absolutely.
do, can do. And it's okay. It is okay to ask for help. It's okay to get help, you know. But where are some places, you think like, where can they go? Like if they don't have that mentor or that friend, like resources, like what do they do? Where do they go?
It's interesting. Some may say, "Nah, don't do it this way." But find you a church. Find you a church for men. Find you a church that has a men's fellowship, that has like a good group of men in that environment that can speak to the issues that you have. Because in most cases, the men have gone through it, right? A lot of times, they've come out of certain situations and they've found spiritual stability that has brought them a lot further than they would have been. And the other thing too is listen to individuals that have gone through certain. So a lot of times, we look at social media, that's bad, but you can find certain or look up certain things that really can speak to what you're dealing with. Now again, on both situations, you have to be receptive to the information, and you got to allow your spirit to kind of like resonate from a standpoint of if the environment is conducive for you. Do you feel good? There are counseling places that you can kind of go to, or not kind of, but you can actually go to and find out if those things are for you. But if you're not in an environment, think about this. If you're not in an environment where you have relationships that you can actually have accountability, where guys can like speak to certain things, you're in the wrong circle. There should never be a circle you're in that doesn't have an accountability partner or accountability brothers or sisters for that fact in it that can call you on the carpet. Like, yo, man, no, you don't need to go that way, or no, that's not how you treat her. No, don't do that to your children. This is what I learned when I was going through it. Now I do this. You got to have people that are not yes people in your life.
Right.
And so, can you find them? Absolutely, you can find them, but you got to really sit down, say, Lord, can you bring some people in my life that can actually help me through this? And you'll be surprised what'll happen. You'll start finding yourself in a circle you might have already been in, but you never asked the question.
Right.
So you got to be willing again to ask certain things. And there are people around you that you may not be willing to say, "Hey, are you familiar with, any group, men's group or whatever, mentorship that I can, get information from?" Be willing to ask that question because somebody might be around that can actually answer that for you. But stop trying to do it by yourself, fellas. You're not built to try to handle your negative and situations on your own. You got to have somebody on your team. Whether it's one, two, or three people, somebody, you need a go-to person that can actually, that you can actually unleash, invent
Without
to
feeling
without
judged.
feeling
Without
judged. You
feeling
need a safe
judged.
zone. You
Right.
need some brothers that be like, nah, man, don't take, no, you don't need that part. You need somebody that will give you wisdom, guidance, and understanding, and some insight that makes sense and will keep you from making the wrong decision.
That's it right there.
Indeed.
Yes, definitely. You definitely need that safe zone, someone you can talk to and without feeling judged. Because a lot of times, even as women, we feel,
Oh yeah.
you don't
Oh
want to be
yeah.
judged, so you
Yeah.
kind of, we
And
hold
it's
things.
challenging though.
It
And it
is.
don't let me fool you from a standpoint of it's easy. It's not,
Right.
because everybody had their own situations that they're going through. But I'm very serious about when I speak to find someone that has spiritual balance, that can speak the truth on both sides, and so that you actually recognize that it's true, and give you and call you again, say some things to you that will challenge you, because we need to be challenged based on some of the things we're doing, and a lot of times we're not. We have people that be like co-signing. You don't need no
Yeah,
co-signers in
yeah.
your life.
Like you said, everything is always good.
It's
Yeah,
good,
you
yeah.
good,
No, yeah,
right?
you did. No,
No,
no, you don't
you
need no
was wrong.
co-signer.
You was
Right.
wrong, and it's okay to be
And
wrong.
let me tell you why
Right,
you're wrong.
right.
Here's 4 or 5
Yeah,
reasons. But here's the other side to that. Here's what can make it right.
right.
That's what you need, somebody to say, listen, man, I went through that. Here's what I did to correct it. Now, you could choose, because it comes down to choice regardless of that. But you can choose to take these steps because it did help me. And in these steps, you may not use them all, but at least try to apply it, because application is the key to a lot of things. We hear some stuff that's positive. Like, people will hear this information. A lot of people won't apply it, though.
Right.
It hit them. They're like, yeah, I did go through it. But you got to apply it. You got to have some application in your life. And then you got to reach out to where, you got to reach out to Sincere. You can call me, whatever it might
Oh
be.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Definitely,
Because you're
definitely.
connected,
Right.
right? So I wouldn't be sitting here
Right.
if you didn't believe I didn't know what I was talking about,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
and I know you did. I know.
So,
Look, I
so
know he knows what he's talking about. I've seen it. I witnessed it. I mean, he's very good at what he does, and everything that he's saying here today. Trust and believe. This is who he is. So if he's telling you to reach out, if it's anything that he can do to help, trust and believe. He genuinely and sincerely mean that. He mean it. I've seen
indeed.
you. I've seen you.
You see
Yeah, I've
it.
seen you in action. And that's
Yeah.
why so many people respect John. It's the respect that they have for you because they know what you do and they know that when you do it, you go all in.
See,
You
that's
go
what I'm
all
talking about.
in.
See that,
You go
that
all
right
in.
on.
He goes all in.
Yeah, yeah, no
And
doubt.
that's why
Yeah.
I'm so thankful and grateful that you came today
Oh, yeah.
to do this because it's needed. It's not always about us ladies. It goes hand in hand. And I just wanted to have
Yeah.
you here to shed light and talk about from a male's perspective, just how it is with
Absolutely.
the
I
men.
appreciate that. Yeah.
And I hope that, it reached some of our male viewers out there and it, like you said, they look at it
Yeah.
and use that information and do something with it because it has to start from somewhere. Your sons, even if, you feel like it's too late for you, it's never too late.
Never.
It's never too late, right? It's never too late to get the
Absolutely.
help so that you can build.
Just gotta ask.
You just got to ask
Just
somebody,
gotta ask.
right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting. I want to say this before I go, or I don't know how much longer you got, but a lot of times people will look at individuals and don't believe they've been through some stuff,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I'm gonna tell y'all, the things that I speak to, I've been through. So that's how, from a totally different level, I can speak to it because I've had the faith in the spiritual side to understand that I didn't have to go through it. And yet, the Lord took me through it so I could speak to those who are dealing with it. So how can I talk about something that I've never had happen? Well, I can talk to it at a high level because I've seen it on both sides. And those are the type of people that you should have in your life that has actually identified with what you're dealing with from a point of, can they help you in the things that they've learned coming out of it and coming through it.
Right.
Therefore, I am a testimony, right?
I
You know what I'm
guess.
saying? So I don't speak what I don't know, and I speak what I do at a high level because I've seen it from my youth and in my adulthood to where I'm able to help people and sit across, have conversations. They don't even know that I have this insight, and or until they actually sit down and go like, I thought about this, and oh, don't go that route.
Right.
Go this route, and here's a spiritual reason why. Here's a natural reason why. But and I am nowhere near perfect, and that's why I can have this conversation
Right.
because I've had some issues, some challenges from a man's point of view, and even in relationships. So don't think at any time that you're by yourself.
Right.
Never by yourself. Don't think at any time you're the only one that's gone through it. So, because if you're out there thinking that you are the only one in the world that's dealing with this, then you're in a different world, and you should find out those who have and identify with them from a
Right.
standpoint of getting you through.
Okay, Mr. I am a
Yes,
testimony.
indeed.
You see it for yourself, the I am a testimony. And that's what he's speaking. He is a testimony.
Absolutely.
Right. Testimony. Oh, John, you are amazing. You are amazing. Um, I would like to ask that my listeners, just all your social media handles. I
Oh,
want you just to share that
absolutely.
information so that they
Absolutely.
know how to contact you.
Certainly. Two ways. You can look up John McClung Jr. or you can look up I Am a Testimony. From a standpoint of IG, it's I Am a Testimony. My website is johnmcclungjr.com. And then, of course, from an apparel standpoint, I am a testimonyapparel.com. And I believe I just did a TikTok. I think I set my TikTok up as I Am a Testimony now, and it's with the name Mr. I Am a Testimony. But in those, even on LinkedIn, it's Chaplain John McClung Jr. So if you look up those two things or those two items, you might see my face or name somewhere around.
And you heard him say apparel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
want to give a little
Sure.
bit
Oh,
about your
absolutely.
apparel?
Listen, it's interesting because the conversation we're having based on mental and relationships and all that, my apparel line was started because of a divorce, like a serious divorce in 2009, 10, somewhere there. And it was devastating because I got served. My ex tried to serve me in church. So when I talk about relationships, I'm serious about the things that you go through. And unfortunately, I wasn't there at the time. And a buddy of mine called me and said, "Man, don't come to church because there's a guy here that's trying to serve you, from a divorce standpoint." And so I had an opportunity to be on I was doing podcasts in 2009. I was a co-host. And at the end of the podcast, I would say, "I am a testimony." And that was in 2009. The Lord said, "That's going to be your brand, your business." In 2011, I started the business in 2011. We in 2025. So I've been building it, and I was sharing this over the weekend from the ground to the crown. I didn't start out with what I have now. I started out with learning how to do a T-shirt, print this, messing up all kind of shirts, but now I'm a custom designer. I design from shoes all the way to hats, dresses. You've been in my gear. You've
Yes.
seen what I've done. And it definitely ain't T-shirts. And so I've been fortunate because just like the models, every model who has been in my gear are excited to be in the gear because they can identify with being a testimony in their life, right? And so just the apparel itself allows you to speak to some of the things that you've gone through. The tag is, it's the brand that speaks to your deliverance, and that's what it does. It gives you opportunity to talk about what you've gone through and how you got through it. And so I'm excited. We're going through a new phase right now. I'm actually going to go back to basics this season. The Lord has said, go back to basics because I've done some high level stuff. I'm gonna keep that in the background, but I'm gonna go to basics, and so that people can enjoy wearing the gear. And then when I do the shows, I'll go to another level.
Well, I love it. Even from the healthcare side,
Yeah,
he didn't even mention, his scrubs,
yeah.
you know.
I guess it's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the models called me the other day about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he has
yeah,
I'm a testimony scrubs.
yeah.
So, yeah, so definitely you have all his social media information. Reach out. If you're interested in just looking up, checking out his brand, do that as
Absolutely.
well, and wear that I am a testimony with a purpose.
Yep. And you can call me at any time. You can DM me. You can connect with Sincere.
Yeah.
You know how to get connected with me.
Yeah.
Just if you don't have, and I want to say that above everything, if you don't believe you have somebody to talk to, that can walk you through some things, or you can just be open, definitely inbox me or get in touch with me from a standpoint of just having someone on your side to give you that kind of counseling that you can feel comfortable with. And Sincere will tell you, everybody that she's been around, that I've been around as far as in the circle, have no problem calling me.
No. And he's
Everyone
up all hours
all
of the
night.
night. I don't care what time it is.
I have an amazing wife that knows that I belong to the world. So she, so if I'm counseling, if it's midnight and you call me, she knows
Right.
I know what that conversation is for, and he's helping somebody. So
Yes.
definitely, if whomever hears this that might be struggling with some things, and you just need somebody to talk to your chaplain. Yeah,
All right. There you have it. And you already shared your social media
yeah,
information and everything, right?
absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, John.
Did you get a chance to ask the question?
for being. Yes,
You did? Okay.
I did. I sure
Because this
did.
conversation just.
Well, we was talking because I mean, look, you speaking from a male,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
I kind of let you share that with the viewers. And yeah, we touched on everything. I
Okay.
think just in terms of what you think, far as a male perspective,
Absolutely.
right?
Okay.
And
I
I
appreciate
kind
that.
of chimed in with mine as women what we need to do, right?
Absolutely.
We have to do better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
We all
that
do, no
connection,
doubt.
we all
Yeah.
have to do better.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it, and and it's okay to get help.
And I'm gonna say this too. There's a book that I would recommend
Okay.
that your audience, if they get a chance, is on Amazon. It's called "Are You in the Right Garden? Recognizing Real Relationships." Now, I'm gonna give a shameless plug because I wrote the book, but that book has made an impact on people's lives because they see a part of life in relationships that they've never seen or heard before. Talk about the three different men that men don't recognize that they are. They're recognized as a hunter, a gardener, and a farmer. And most women end up running into hunters who come up on the soil. Most women don't even know that there's only most people. Let me say that don't even know that there's only two types of soil in the world. There's Mother Earth and the woman. Only two soils in the world that produce. And most women don't know that because of their soil, they just can't let anybody walk on the land. And a hunter, Sincere, goes on the land and has no respect for the land because all he does is go on the land and hunt, and then he shows off what he's killed. And a lot of women are dealing with guys who come into their life and they're killing them. Not physically, but just emotionally, mentally, spiritually, psychologically, and leave them. And these women are damaged. Why? Because the next person that comes on the land gets what just happened to them. Guys who are gardeners, they can look in the backyard, and if they decide to do a garden, they can. And most it's like maybe one season or two seasons. They might be in your life for maybe a season or so. But the moment that they get tired of doing the garden, they go on about their business. That garden got weeds all in it and everything. They don't care. And then most lives, when you got a guy that's a gardener coming in your life, he tends to certain things. He sound good for a season, and then next thing you know, you got weeds in your life, in your relationship. Then you got the farmer. Now the farmer is what women should look for. The farmer is that man, despite nothing being on the soil, he's still tilling the land. He out there getting it ready because you could drive by on a vacation and see this farm and it don't have nothing but the dirt out there. And then 30 days later you start seeing sprouts because he's still, regardless of what it looks like, is taking care of it. He's watering, he's giving it good words, he consistently taking care of it, making sure it's in order, in line, preparing it for what? The next season. And he do it season after season after season. And every farmer that you have in your life, especially those who have done it for like 30, 40, 50 years, that
Right.
farmer been taking care of the soil because it produces amazing fruit when he does. If you're not producing great fruit, you don't have a good farmer in your life. I'm going to leave it right there.
Ooh, okay. That was deep. You hear that? And where do you say they can find that book?
On Amazon.
On Amazon?
If not, I'll send you a copy.
Okay. All right.
Are you in the right garden? Recognizing real relationships.
All right. Well, we're going to end it on that note. Are you in the right
Good.
garden? I love it. I love it.
Hey,
I love it. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today. You can catch more conversations like this from Let's Talk Health and Wellness with Lenitra on Ebon Vision on YouTube. Remember to go like, subscribe, and comment and share with your family and your friends. Thank you. Thank you for joining.